Assalamu alaikum. Today, the topic of our presentation is how does sea shipment work, and along with that, we will also be discussing regarding different type of containers, different specifications of the containers, and what are the products that we can ship from those. To elaborate further on this, we will be discussing facts with the help of the videos. In the next slide, you will be seeing a video and of how does a sea shipment work.
The flow of logistics is an exciting topic to explore. Especially in this video, I'll focus on FCL or full container load by cargo vessel. Well, here we go. How is cargo transported by cargo vessel? Whether a beginner or an experienced person handling export or import shipment, understanding the flow of logistics and its paperwork is always essential. When you know the flow, you'll know what to do and expect in each section of the flow. It is pretty rare for a person to use containers for transportation. Still, many manufacturers produce goods every day and ship them overseas every week. Once the cargo is ready to ship out, the manufacturer's shipping representative will contact the freight forwarder. They will provide relevant details to their freight forwarder, such as cargo readiness, trade under which Incoterm, port of discharge, volume and container types required, so that the freight forwarder can check the rate and plan the shipment based on the manufacturer's need. The freight forwarder will reply to the manufacturer with the sailing schedule, including closing time, ETD, transit time, ETA, and total charges, so that the manufacturer can decide to book the vessel that sails on their preferred ETD. Once the booking had been made, the freight forwarder will provide the booking confirmation that consists of vessel details to the manufacturer. Once the manufacturer received the booking, they will plan the loading date with the freight forwarder to make all the necessary arrangements, such as pickup and delivering the empty containers to the manufacturer. Many importers and exporters prefer to work with a freight forwarder to leverage their knowledge and connection, so that the importers and exporters only need to contact one freight forwarder. It doesn't need to get many parties such as shipping lines, haulage providers, and customs brokers to make their job done. Besides that, the freight forwarder will also check all the required documents thoroughly to avoid errors happen. All the papers must be perfectly correct, to avoid queries by the customs officer or be unable to process for duty exemption due to errors found in the certificate of origin. Special attention to all the paperwork is essential. To pick up the empty container for the cargo, we pick it up from the container depot. Container depot is the place that all the shipping lines keep their containers. Depot will also do all the necessary maintenance of the container, such as cleaning and repairing. Usually, we visit the container's depot in the early morning or late evening to suit the delivery time requested by the manufacturer. We will ensure our haulage driver inspect the conditions of the containers before pickup. As an imperfect quality container sometimes assigned, even we requested a grade A container with shipping lines. Once we deliver the empty containers to the manufacturer, we will follow up on the date and time for us to send the laden containers to the port. Some manufacturers ship many containers per week. Hence the proper discussion of the delivery schedule between the manufacturer and freight forwarder is essential. Freight forwarder's adequate management on the delivery is also crucial to get in the container before the closing time set by the shipping line. While the manufacturer is loading the cargo into the container, the freight forwarder shall have to follow up on the shipping instruction from the manufacturer to prepare the draft of the bill of lading. The container may considerably shake caused by the uneven road condition and rough sea condition, so it is important to do necessary lashing to avoid cargo damage. Once the containers gate into port, the freight forwarder has to make sure VGM submission and customs declaration are complete before the vessel departed. As you can see, there are many procedures to go through even before the container can gate into the port. Plus, a massive amount of containers are also being collected by the port in a day. Therefore, closing time must be kept because enough time for unloading and loading between terminal and cargo vessel is essential. The containers are lifted by a giant crane called the gantry crane. The total weight of the container has to be strictly controlled. And the cargo weight must be evenly distributed since it is being lifted. Once the vessel departed from the port of loading, the freight forwarder also needs to follow up the bill of lading from the shipping line and forward it to the manufacturer. The manufacturer will send the bill of lading to the consignee once the payment had been made. The manufacturer will send the bill of lading to the consignee by courier services like DHL or FedEx. Before the vessel arrives at the port of discharge, the shipping line will issue a notice of arrival and a commercial invoice of terminal handling charges and other local charges to the consignee. Consignee required to surrender the original bill of lading to shipping line to exchange delivery orders. Consignees are also required to pay the terminal handling charges and local charges to obtain delivery orders. Once the consignee gets the delivery orders from the shipping line is agreed to release the containers to the consignee. At this time, the consignee's freight forwarder shall proceed to the customs clearance and arrange for the delivery once the customs paper is cleared. Documents required for customs clearance are the bill of lading, commercial invoice, packing list and certificate of origin if any. Once the laden container is delivered to the consignee and the cargo had been unloaded, this is the end of the whole flow of logistics by cargo vessel. After all this process, the cargo was finally delivered overseas. How do you like it? It looks like we are just transporting cargo by container, but various documents are required along the process. If there is an error in the papers, the shipment will not be delivered smoothly. So the understanding of the flow of logistics by sea shipment is essential so that your shipment can be delivered smoothly. If you like to learn more about logistics,
So now we will be discussing about what are the types of and specification of the containers for your business, and this will include different type of containers and their specifications, their heights, their width, their usability, and what are the products, what type of products that we can use for dispatching the products by using those containers.
today, I would like to talk about the types of containers used in international logistics. There are various types of containers for ocean shipment. We deliver the various type of cargoes, such as food, industrial goods, chemicals and daily necessities to all over the world. So, we have to choose the best container for each cargo transportation. What we focus today is the types, characteristics, and size of containers. First of all, let's look at the types of containers. Dry container, reefer container, open top container, flat rack container, ISO tank container. Typically, there are 20 feet and 40 feet containers. This foot refers to length. So 20 feet is about 6 meters length and 40 feet is about 12 meters length. So let's take a look at them. The first is dry container. Dry container has the function as a box for transporting cargo. It is the most common container in the market and it's mainly used for general cargo. And it depends on the class, it is also used for dangerous cargo as well. From now, I will introduce various types of containers, but please understand this dry container is a standard container. Next, reefer container. Reefer container is temperature-controlled container, like a moving refrigerator. Depends on the manufacturer, most containers can adjust temperature in the range of -30 degrees Celsius to +30 degrees Celsius. The temperature inside a container rises to 60 to 70 degrees Celsius just below the equator. However, with reefer containers, the inside temperature can be kept constant. Therefore, it is often used for food products and dangerous goods that require temperature control. Next is open top container. Open top container is like dry container without a ceiling. Since there is no ceiling, it is used for tall cargoes. Open tops are also sometimes used to put heavy cargo into a container from the top. It's not easy for loading heavy cargo that a normal 3 or 5 ton forklift can't lift. But it's not that difficult to use an overhead crane or a wrecker at a factory to load from the top of a container. The cargo won't get wet by rain because the ceiling is covered after the loading is done. Then flat rack container. The flat rack is dry container with no ceiling and no side walls. It is used for the cargo wider than the dry container. It is also used for not only oversized cargo, but also engaged items that can fit inside a container. Even the engaged cargo, but sometimes flat rack container will be used when the factory loading facility is not enough. The ocean freight are generally higher for open top and flat rack containers. That's because there is limited space on a container vessel for those containers. For example, when carrying oversized cargo on flat rack, it uses extra container space on both sides as well as the top. Ocean freight is increased because it uses lots of places. However, even if it is a special container, the space on a vessel is not limited for an engaged container, so the sea freight can be kept down. Finally, ISO tank container. ISO tank is used for liquid materials. It may be cheaper to put wine, juice, chemicals and so on directly into an ISO tank container than into a container with the drums. Next, let's talk about the size of the container. First is a 20 feet container. The size required for actual operations is internal container size. 20 feet container is about 2.3 meters square and about 6 meters length. You do not need to memorize the exact size, it's okay to remember roughly. There are slightly differences in container sizes between shipping lines, so no need to memorize exactly. You won't be tested, so it's important to use it in the actual jobs. And 40 feet container. 40 feet container has the same width and height as 20 feet container, which is 2.3 meters, and 40 feet container length is twice as long as a 20 feet. It is about 12 meters. It's easy, isn't it? Then, 40 feet high cube container. High cube means a taller container. It is mainly for a 40 feet container. 20 high cube container is not common. And in terms of size, 40 feet high cube is about 2.7 meters height. Let's summarize the size of containers. As mentioned earlier, please try to understand roughly. There are only 4 numbers that come up. The common size is the width of a containers. It is about 2.3 meters. Then, 6 meters for 20 feet length. 12 meters for 40 feet length. 2.7 meters for height cube. Open top has no ceiling. Flat rack has no ceiling nor side walls. This is the easy way to remember. And maximum loading weight is also important as well. When transporting not bulky but heavy cargo such as steel, machinery, liquid, water, rice, etc., in sea shipment, the weight of the cargo is very important for safety control. Therefore, the weight of the maximum cargo loading is about 25 tons for both 20 feet and 40 feet containers. Please keep this in mind. Just because it's 40 feet doesn't mean it can load twice as heavy as a 20 feet. Lastly, let's mention the grade of containers. The quality of containers will change depending on the type of the cargoes. Used containers are cleaned and repaired at a container depot, and they are classified into grades A, B and C. For example, if it transports hygiene products such as food or medicine, the container grade must be A. Grade A container is in good condition with no major scratches, no peeling floors, and no smell. And grade C container. If there is a hole in the ceiling of a container, it is not acceptable, but it is used on the assumption that it has damages to some extent. It is used for transporting the scrap material and steel. If you are involved in trade, you have to use different containers depending on the contents of your cargo. And it is also important to understand the size of the container in order to load the cargo efficiently. Today's contents are very important.